Welcome to American Truck Simulator. Need for Speed. Yeah, there you go. People seem to be doing like retrospectives and such about this game in the last maybe year or so, and it's ramped up some and more recent than that. So I figured I'd do my own take on it. I did a fair few videos back in the day of the game, and yeah, this ain't exactly back in the day, but some of the things are maybe even more true than ever back in the day. To begin with, I'm looking into this specifically, and it might end up being a rant-taking video. I don't know exactly when, because still looking into it and such. But yeah, you need an EA account to play the game whatsoever. I'll just play it online. Play it whatsoever, because it's online only. Like the argument of Gran Turismo, you could say online only to avoid hackers and all that. Well, there's no competitive scene for Need for Speed 2015, especially not in 2024. So yeah, figured I'd specialtate Need for Speed 2015 and 2024 with my main account where I finished the game and had like the fastest car in the game, and there's a video back in the day when I beat the quote-unquote hard challenges by 45 seconds and such. No, I had to restart completely. And oh boy, I forgot how terrible this game was. So yeah, you saw the black screen. There's load times. The cutscenes are apparently unskippable. I swear I remember in the past you could skip the cutscenes, but I didn't skip. The way that happened is I just exited out of the game and then got back to it. That's how I avoided a cutscene. I swear back in the day they were. Also these, you can dismiss those, but yeah, there's pop-ups. Way caught picking too much. Phone calls, way caught picking too much. Pop-ups, way caught picking too much. What I was trying to do here is, this is the very beginning of the game, except for the very-ist beginning of the game, where you're using someone else's car. I don't care about the story. Didn't pay attention again. Couldn't skip the cutscene, so I just looked at the live streams of the game itself, and then the server crashed 4 times doing that. Eventually it loaded. But looking at the live streams of this game, it's still relatively active. I don't know why. But what I was trying to do is go to the daily challenges. Start menu. Didn't work. Hold the start menu. Didn't work. Eventually realized it's the middle button. And there's another pop-up. But did you notice what was slightly before the pop-up? Yeah, apparently I'm still in the tutorial, even though at this point I bought a car and technically watched unskippable cutscene. Yeah, this ain't dandy. Can't exactly play the way that I want to play it, and I'm getting these in the middle of racing to try and get to the point where I can play the way that I want to play it. Instead, I'm still getting this in the middle of racing, and I'm legally blind, so I couldn't exactly see what I was doing. So, yeah. My reflexes made it to where, again, oh, apparently there's a turn here that I'm just now seeing. There's no way I'm taking that time. So, we'll try to wall ride it. Hey, maybe you could give points for Need for Speed 2015 physics. Wall riding is not allowed. Maybe my memory is wrong. Maybe the physics for Need for Speed 2015 is actually what saves it. And that's why people are going back to play it now. Maybe my memory just has fooled me over the years. Let's see what happens with more racing. Oh, for Jiminy Cricket 6. This is the car that is bone stock. I did the tutorial race. There was an actual going to the cutscene of a different car. And then there was a tutorial race with way too many pop-ups and phone calls and such. finally got to actually play how I wanted to, so I decided to race an AI. Because you could do the impromptu races like Need for Speed Underground 2, because this is what a lot of people say is the spiritual successor of Need for Speed Underground 2. Can't exactly say I remember the game on the PS2 understeering that much. Any of them. Yeah. This car is bone stock and it's understeered. This rear-wheel drive quote-unquote sports car, but at least it's somewhat version of a Toyota. Yay, this game had Toyotas. That's something, I guess. That's something, I guess. In case y'all didn't see it or wasn't looking there or whatever. This is the mini map. It's really cotton picking mini. I had to go back to even check myself because it's really cotton picking mini. I am ahead by this much, folks. I'm ahead by this much. Going to the line. The AI is just barely getting on the back straight. Say that's at least 7 seconds ahead or so. And a bit over a 2-minute race. Yeah, the AI is not at all competitive whatsoever, even with the terrible physics, which makes for the driving to also be terrible, because I haven't played this game since like 2017. And they can't even calculate a one-on-one race against an AI that isn't even one to actually have to go to where it has to load leaderboards and such. The physics are bad, like I remembered. I don't remember it quite literally failing to load a race properly. Don't remember that one, folks. And this is after it crashed 4 different times, which I didn't even show y'all before it actually started. And not allowed me to play on my main account whatsoever, which, like I said, I'm looking into it, but might end up being a rant-tating video. Not a good start. Not a good start. And also, I did not paint the car that way, it just was. But yeah. This game ain't exactly the dandiest, to say the least. So then I decided to just put the ugliest thing on it quickly. Because, well, I have a goal, and then you see at the end. But this is me actually trying to achieve the goal. I wasn't ever going to do an impromptu race like more fun to do Need for Speed Underground 2. That worked perfectly fine on the PS2. And I remember being quite competitive and fun to drive, even when I was a little kid. Yeah. So anyway, you saw it understeer at slow speeds. Let's see what it does at high speeds. Oh, look at Cop Chase. Need for Speed Underground 2 didn't have cops. So maybe this is what redeems the game. The physics are terrible. The online is terrible. It doesn't even allow you to do the impromptu races correctly. It's... Oh yeah, the cutscenes are apparently unskippable. And it didn't let me allow me to use my main account. Maybe the Cop Chase works. Oh, and also, every time you restart the game, because it crashed again, online's terrible. Have I already said that yet? 'Cause I'm going to say it again. Online's terrible in an online-only game. And I have a feeling almost no one actually plays anymore. Granted, I don't have PlayStation Plus, but theoretically that's speeding it to load even faster because it's not loading other real people in there. Still terrible. Every time you load back, like actually close the game out and reopen it, camera defaults back to way too close camera. Yeah, doesn't save your settings. But this again, it's also stock, because I didn't want to spend money on this because it's saving money for something that again I'm saving for the end. It understeered terribly in slow speeds, and higher speeds it goes from looking like I'm going to make the turn fine. No big deal there. Uncontrollable drift into the wall. It looked like a pretty cool wreck, didn't it? Like I hit the wall, my car is sliding out some, so the rear kept sliding when the front didn't. and then the other car hit it, so it made my car flip and stuff. Could barely see it. The racks are terrible. Everything else is terrible that I don't even really feel like saying. I'm just showing this in at speed all at once so you can see. And wait for it, folks. That's not the worst part. It's really not. Somehow. Did you notice something, folks? Look real closely. What's not there? What's not there? What's there? Yeah, folks, the cop just pops in. Cop chases are also terrible. Don't show it here, but I also found out with a little bit more testing, you cannot damage out the cop cars. The cop cars are immortal. Hitting them does nothing. It's literally pointless. I do remember that all the cops were in this game were a nuisance, but at least the more you got the cop chases and stuff like that, you got reputation and such for it. But yeah, the cops themselves are terrible. They made it a game mechanic because you could progress by doing it, but doing it itself is terrible. The only thing good about this game, and it better be cotton picking good, and it was for what it was, is the graphics are pretty much on par with modern, Unbound, Heat, all that. Okay, that's cool. But this game is only at night, and the map is pretty cotton picking small. There's only 60-something cars in the game, and no interior view. Yeah, the graphics better be cotton picking good, don't they? Yeah. So that's it, and that's kind of what it has to be good, given the other negatives to it. So anyway, here's my goal, that I sort of kind of did. I wanted to do enough racing to where, because this was actually a feature added later in the game that I didn't actually play on my main account, so I wanted to actually do something different, is to buy the hot rod. You actually look in the trophies for alt account GTS. Did that, got the hot rod. So that's cool. Something that I didn't do on the main account. The main account, I had the hypercar hot rod thing that kind of looked like an old school hot rod with modern Formula 1s, or modern for 2016 or whatever came out. Formula 1 setup. No, this one's bone stock. And because it's a bone stock 1932, it didn't even reset me far enough track to start the race. By the time I got control of the car, it was already sweeping into a wall. Any other car would be fast enough where it's actually where it should be, on the other side of the road. That one is not. So what I ended up doing is I saved up the money to buy this, and then I sold the starter car. This is so cotton picking slow. It doesn't even start the race correctly, so it can't race. Remember how I said there's progressing with the cops, though? That's at least something. Wait for that, folks. Also, this is unedited. That's just how bad the PS4 skips now, saving footage. I've said that before, but I swear it gets gradually worse. Look at the speed, folks. Look at this blazing speed. 55 miles an hour. Car is still pretty much undrivable. What I did is I sold the base Toyota, which I kept stock, because again, I didn't want to put any money into it, so that I could save for this. And with this, I made it as much of a drift tune as possible, because from how I remembered it, the only way that you could make the cars even remotely decent was make it as much of a drift tune as possible. Granted, this is a 90 horsepower 1932 Ford, so you could say that it was never going to go well if it were realistic. Do these physics look realistic to you? Not exactly, folks. Not exactly. I couldn't steer back. I could not counter steer. Going 55 miles an hour in a full drift setup. Couldn't counter steer. Anyway, mentioned the cops. Could do cop chases and progress and such. Didn't have the money for any other car. Because I wanted to try something different. I didn't have this car in the main account, so at least I'm trying something different. Can't do the races because it sets me so far back. Can't do that. Actually, I was able to progress a little bit with the drifting, to be fair. It says a little bit more in the game progressing, but barely any. And, I mean, for now it's looking fine. I'm able to move the cop car out of the way pretty decently well. So it more at speed here. Wait for it, folks. Yeah, I'm able to move the cop car pretty decently, so whatever. No big deal. At least I can do cop chases and progress with that. It's quite boring. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't remember this game being bad in the slightest. Granted, this is the slowest car in the game. I'll give you that. But, as you can see, there's absolutely nothing in front of me whatsoever. I was moving at about 15 miles an hour. The only way, well, other than it's a Ford, so it could just break down. And it's old. So if it were realistic, it would make sense. An old Ford would just break down. But as you can see, this game is as far from realistic as possible. So what I'm pretty sure happened, the only thing that I could think, is the cops shot me in the back of the head through that tiny window. And I died. My last vision ever, the last thing I ever see, is that pop-up. That's how my Need for Speed 2015 journey ends. Having my main account taken away completely, which I'm looking into. Being stuck at the start of the game when the physics make the starter car the best one to understeer at slow speeds and to oversteer at high speeds. The cops are so bad that they pop in. They can't even keep up with you. They have to pop in and they have to shoot you in the back of the head to stop you in the slowest car in the game. And it's always online. Despite there being no competitive scene for this game whatsoever. From the very beginning, even really before the game was out, people said it was a death sentence of it always being online. So I think all in all, that's why people are somewhat being more retrospective about the game now, because they realize pretty cop picking soon it's going to be offline. But, as I said I was going to say, to me, this is the worst Need for Speed game, mainline one, in the whole series. I haven't played all like the miscellaneous little PSP ones or the mobile ones or whatever it may be. In terms of like mainline console games, this is the worst one in the entire series. It looks pretty. Customization is fine. Honestly, for all Need for Speed games considered, there's plenty that are better than it. Though too, that's really about the best you could say. The graphics are about a 9 out of 10. But given that it's only every night and the map is small and there's only 60-something cars, yeah, it better be a 9 out of 10. And the customization is maybe about a 7 out of 10. Everything else is probably like a 3 out of 10 or lower. That ain't the dandiest, folks. Really ain't. And I mean, you can even go back on the channel. I did my best to get used to the physics. I beat the quote-unquote hard time trial. It was supposed to take about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. By over 45 seconds. And that was before the car was even fully customized. Because the way that this game does it is that you have to go through a bunch of pointless story missions to be able to customize the car. It's not a money thing. You have to do the pointless story. Part of the story, again, is dealing with the cops. So yeah, I quit playing maybe 60% of the way through the story. I was already beating the hard stuff by 45 seconds. Yeah. If y'all want me to, I guess I could still do this a bit more on the alt account, but I'm restarting the save file, or however you want to put it. I know there's an option in there where you can create a new game and do that. This save for this one, because I pretty much soft locked it with this car and I don't have the money to buy a different car. This being got shot in the back of the head and is now deceased. So, yeah, I'm doing it on a different save file if I ever were to restart. But yeah, that's Need for Speed 2015. And so kind of do closing and so all this at speed so you can take it in more. I don't really remember it being this bad. That's for sure. I didn't particularly like it after a while. I even gave the physics and stuff a chance. I looked for tutorials online, and I mean, I got the Porsche driving not terribly. The 1973 Carrera, that was like the best car for like 4 Need for Speed games in a row. And I don't even pay enough attention to unmount it is there or not. I know it was at least through heat. And yeah, so the best car in the game, but drove where you could go back and look at it, not even particularly all that good. And it was the best car. My goal was to go on my main account and just kind of go through like the Mopars. Like I had the fully tuned as much as I felt like doing the story missions, dealing with these crappy physics. Viper, Challenger, Porsche, F40 because that had the best top speed, and that hot rod F1 looking thing were the 5 cars I had. Because yeah, you can only have 5 cars in your garage. It does like with GT6 where there's a scrap or stockyard, yeah, stockyard type of thing, warehouse, whatever. In GT6 you could have 500 in your main garage. In Need for Speed, you could have 5. And it takes over 12 hours to grind enough money to get the best car in the game. I don't even think it takes 12 hours to grind to get the best car in the game in GT7. When this game's even more grindy than GT7, that's telling you something, folks. It really got picking is. I mean, at least you can say it's not macro-transaction heavy, but there was a whole heck of a heap of DLCs. And I'm still pretty sure that you could actually buy the currency itself at one point. I think that's been delisted from the store, but from what I remember, you could. You see what popped up there, though? Now I'm going to test the other games of what's going on with my main account with EA, and that's going to be something, too. Maybe something and a half right yonder. Maybe barely even something at all. I could continue and I'm doing something wrong. Maybe, just maybe. We'll see, but for now, yeah, good riddance to Need for Speed 2015. I mean, a lot of people are being retrospective about it. To be fair, I mean, for a while, the most popular video on my entire channel, for like, I think at least a year, was Need for Speed 2015. It was one of, I guess I'll link it, since I mentioned it a bit, one where I beat the hard time trial by 45 seconds, with the terrible physics and not at all good driving. Couldn't really drive good with the physics. So yeah, I mean, this is only about 2.5 minutes of footage because, I mean, again, the PS4 skips, so that ain't the dangest either. But this is the most interesting 2.5 minutes of footage. I mean, a lot of it's interesting for the worst, but yeah, you literally can't do impromptu races. Like the one thing that they actually did the spiritual successor to the Underground series, the one thing, and that failed. Cops are terrible, the physics are terrible, the online is terrible, and it's online only. It's grindy, and good riddance for when it's taken offline. I hope they can do a patch so it's not a career situation where people can play it offline once it happens, but I'm not going to. It's probably the last time I ever play it. Again, if y'all really want me to play it, I can on the alt account. Again, I'm trying to figure it out with the main account, but not with this car. That's for sure. This one is deceased. That's for sure. So yeah, needless to say, this game ain't worth a yeehaw. But I mean, I guess I still managed to talk about it for about 25 minutes, so it's noteworthy in all the wrong ways, and even the graphics are underwhelming, given how little cars and not even a full time cycle and all that of the map. Nothing good. I don't know why this game was the reboot. About as bad of a reboot as, especially, arguably the most popular racing franchise ever could do. Not going back unless y'all really want me to. That's for sure, folks. That's for sure. Oh, but in the future, I did get heat. When that game goes offline, I can deal with that. Oh, how fun. A few years from now, we'll be coming back. Oh, that'll be